welcome back to Screen to Screen. I'm Andrew, and this is Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And today we're going into Civilization. We're gonna try to adapt this one.
It's a crazy idea, but it might just work.
It's a crazy idea because usually when you make a story, be it a movie or a show, you have like a central protagonist. But the very nature of Civilization kind of makes that impossible.
It's true, it's true.
So here's my pitch for the Civilization TV show. It is an alternate history show. The planet, I believe it would be called Terra, because it's sort of a fake Earth, and that is also the name of the map we're playing in.
That's true.
And I feel like the protagonist, so to speak, will be a civilization, a fake civilization that we make up. And we see this civilization in each episode, or if this is a very large-scale show, in each season, we see different events in human history with these sort of what-if scenarios. And, we could be like, World War II, just like, that comes to mind. But we see like, what if like this little thing was tweaked, and like that could be a whole episode, and we can have these like fun little, we'd have like a new cast, I suppose. It would be sort of like Blackadder. Maybe from episode to episode, maybe the same actors will be in there.
I was going to say, if we're doing it like Blackadder, they kept most of the same actors but changed their roles.
But we could also just completely do like new roles. It could be like like an Outer Limits or a Twilight Zone kind of thing. We could just have like a new cast. We can have different guest writers and stuff. It's just sort of like an alternate history kind of show. But I feel like unlike those kinds of shows, we have a chronological order to it, and we see like the sort of the rise and perhaps the fall or the re-rise of the civilization.
Yeah, you probably see all kinds of rises and falls.
Another thing that I thought would be kind of cool is in the game Civilization, you have a lot of these world leaders, and they're all there at the same time. They're all kind of immortal. Which I don't think we should make them immortal, but I think it would be fun to really mix up what era they live in. Yeah. Like, what would, Winston Churchill do if he was like, like during the American Revolution? What if he was on the other side there, Like stuff like that. Like, it'd be kind of fun. We're playing as Gandhi right now. What if he controlled an empire? These are some interesting what if things.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's less of a like, here's a character and they're going through a story. It's more of a, here's an entire civilization. Like, you're following not just a city, you're following like a whole people's.
It could be, I mean, right now, Black Panther is a very popular film as we're recording this. It's still in theaters, people are really into it. We could make this a lineage story. Like, again, I think that's kind of like Blackadder, though it's not. I would see like, if Black Panther was an episode, just to sort of like, to sort of visualize how this would go. If the events of Black Panther were an episode of our show, I'd put that very near the end of the series, or of the season, because it seems like it could be the story of a family, and over the years, what happens to an empire, and then maybe the maturity at the end. It's sort of like, we need to be better than. We need to serve more than just our people. This is like humanity, and I feel like that could be like the theme of the show. It's about humanity fighting itself, but in the end, hopefully, maybe in the last few episodes, it's in the future. We have like all these, like, it's like a sci-fi show, and it's like humanity coming to terms with like accepting all of the cultures.
So you want to go in a happy direction, like, we're going to go through the darker parts of humanity, but the end result is, post-scarcity, pulling together.
I think that'd be kind of fun, because I feel like that's a fun way to go out. I'm sort of basing it weirdly on the cinematic introduction to the game we're playing, like with that Baba Yetu song, and it shows like if I remember, it's been a while since I've seen it. It's like, you see like the beginnings of civilization, and then like then the song becomes kind of like turns into like a minor key, and you see all these wars and stuff, and then at the end it's like space and stuff, and so they've overcome that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's very in keeping with the spirit of civilization. But there's like a lot of other things to take into account, like winning the game Civilization. It's usually like in some way dominating the rest of the world. So like, I don't know, like that could be, has to kind of come into play too. Maybe that's their goal. And then at the end, they're sort of like, that's now maybe it's like, well, cause you could have a cultural victory.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, you could win through multiple means, not just through war. Like you could win by building wonders, for instance.
But it is still the point of Civilization, the game, is to be the best.
Culture,
yeah. And I don't know, like that's certainly that's part of the game. Like really, I don't think we could just like dump that out, but it might be kind of like a fun sort of thing with like we make that the goal of the characters, but in the end it's sort of because it's civilization, and you could say that as like a civilization or civilization, all of humanity. And it seems like if it's called Civilization, maybe the end of this show is everyone's kind of united in this like Star Trek-esque world.
Yeah, like a post-scarcity.
Yeah. And maybe that's sort of like the, if the season has an arc to it, I feel like that's sort of Act 2 sort of lowest point is like maybe like a world war, like maybe like a World War III situation, and things are really bad, and it comes to the civilizations working together, because really their only threat to civilization is civilization.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a meteor or something, which
well, I was gonna say, like, one way to bring everyone together is it's the Watchmen situation, where there's a threat bigger than each other, and everyone has to work together.
I mean, that's interesting too. We can kind of think of it like that. Yeah. It's a lineage, and maybe at a certain point it becomes a democracy, and then it's not a lineage anymore. But it's still, we're still in the history. There's still like an empire or something. If we introduce a new empire into the world, that changes history quite a bit.
Yeah.
And we sort of have to play around with like how different is this Terra from Earth. So.
I mean, we're using classical figures from our history here, like you said.
Yeah, but we are
how civilization works.
But we are shuffling them around, so it's an alternate Earth. And I think the original characters are going to be the ones that we're going to follow those. We're not going to follow like George Washington or Mansa Musa or anything. Like we're going to have our own as the main characters. I think we're going to have our own original characters.
Yeah. It'll just be tough, like, making someone care about a character means they need to stick around, so having them all be one-off.
Well, I mean, you could build that per episode. Like, I mean, shows do that.
That's true.
Like, I haven't seen Black Mirror, but I mean, like,
it's an anthology series.
Yeah.
It's more a tone that's continuous and not really characters.
I think, like, each episode can have this sort of, like, theme to it. Like, you have like I could see this as a great writing prompt for like a writer's room. It's like, okay, you have like there's a piece of history maybe that you find fascinating. What would you do to change that to make an interesting story? Like what kind of theme do you want to talk about today? Like what's, I hate to use the word moral because not everything has to have a moral, but it's like an easy shorthand to say like, what do you want the characters to come away with at the end?
That's an interesting idea. Like you could do the first so many episodes of this are just like, all right, here's history. What changes if we have our new civilization here? Like, what would change? Like, they're now in the basket of civilization.
Yeah.
And how does that change what happened in early Bloop-de-Blue?
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of following one civilization.
Yes.
So it's like trying to ground, whether you don't know the characters each week, you do know the history of their country and you know the culture they're coming from. You don't have to build that every time. So you make your own fake little country. You see it grow. It's sort of like the game Microscope, where you're you're seeing a history and how it's almost like it's like Forrest Gump, but it's a whole country of Forrest Gump, where you see these historical events they don't quite turn out the way you remember them, but maybe the setup is pretty much the same each time. Like, we'd have to build the show in sort of a way where it's like the butterfly effect doesn't quite shift things that far off, because like, you know, if a different culture invents agriculture, then that could change everything.
Yeah.
But we can make it so like history keeps correcting itself back to sort of what we know. That way it's still fun. We have a foothold on history.
So there's a lot of room for exploration into like the morality of our history, because World War II is pretty complicated. We as Americans like to think of it as like, hey, that's the war where we showed up.
Yeah.
And we were the good guys.
Right.
And it was great. But a lot of people forget that before Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, we were like, let's just wait and see what happens, because the Nazis aren't that bad. Like, we were kind of gross for a while.
What if Japan was on our side this time? That'd be kind of that's just fan service for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be kind of a fun, like that kind of thing. Like it's just like one major shift, and just see how that plays out.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's like whatever we call our civilization. Like, I don't know where it is. I kind of imagine it being in sort of like either Africa or Middle East, like the kind of the hub of civilization where his civilization kind of began. Maybe it's like Sumeria or something, or you know, or like a culture based on Sumeria, and we see that kind of go. Or, you know, I'd also love to see in the show. I'd love to see like ancient Egypt, but like now. Like I don't know, that always fascinated me. Like, what if that empire kept going? Like, it was had a really good run for a while.
Yeah, it had a good streak, a winning streak for quite some time.
That'd be pretty cool to see that. And you know, what if the Romans were not as successful? What if a lot of the cultures that they kind of trampled were still around? You know, and then there's the whole, like, you know, South America, like, you know, it's almost like you could do a lot of things, like if you kind of like shift where empires were, and all of these cultures that are kind of like integrated or kind of destroyed get to kind of play along in this. Like, what if you know, like World War II, you know, you have a lot of the like these South American kind of cultures. Maybe they're, you know, part of the whole situation. You know, they never got colonized.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the kind of stuff there that could happen. You know, we can play kind of fast and loose here to kind of serve the most fun stories we could tell.
Or at the very least, the most interesting stories.
Yeah, the most interesting stories. Yeah, like yeah, not necessarily fun, because some of them might actually be very not fun.
I was gonna say, like, history has a lot of like dark things that happen.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't just make like a wish fulfillment show where everything good happens. You know, we need you know, like, history's kind of dark, and we can't really portray just like a.
Well, that's. I think we need to go dark in the beginning if our end goal is.
Yeah.
If that final episode is going to be a bunch of people come together to solve a problem, and like, I think the end goal should be there's only one civilization, and that's humanity. Like,
yeah,
no more borders. We're a post one planet civilization.
That's an interesting idea, and I feel like you really need to like ramp that, because like it's a tricky thing, one culture, one civilization, because it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. You know, like if everyone's all one culture, then, you know, it kind of loses some flavor there. You know, and to figure out a fun way to portray that so it feels satisfying to an audience, it doesn't feel, you know, it feels like respectful to either fictional or real cultures, but still have everyone on the same team at the end. Like, I think it's possible. It'll be something we have to earn, though.
Oh yes,
yeah.
It's definitely like we need to show the darker elements of humanity, like us always fighting each other, looking at differences instead of similarities.
It's sort of, I sort of feel like it should be. It always kind of fascinates me that if you know, if something terrible happens to the world, it's probably going to be our fault as humans, and it's kind of stupid, because like we have the power to solve and cause our own problems. Yeah. Like, why is it even possible that we could destroy ourselves? You know, like, why would we want to do that? And I think that could be a fun thing for the show, where it's like this little world that everyone's loved for like a season or seasons is going to destroy itself.
Yeah.
And it needs to not do that. And it's sort of like we can look at this fake Earth as sort of like a fun what if scenario. Like, how are they going to get themselves out of the mess they made for themselves? So I don't know. Other things that are just kind of like, just kind of fun little add-ons here is like it'd be fun to see like the Great Wall of China like in India or something, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's like each country can kind of swap around their monuments like that. The first episode probably I think it was I think it was the advertisement for Civ 6 maybe, where it's like a very, you know, young civilization way back in the past, and it's like maybe some sort of like shaman or something is talking about like, oh, your descendants will just live among the stars.
Yeah.
And like you see like a flash forward.
I believe that was the trailer for one of the expansions.
Oh, it might be, yeah. I really like that idea, like that scene I want to see in the first episode. You know, the pilot episode, you know, like the first episode should, I think it'd be kind of cool to have like that shaman character to sort of kind of pitch the series to the audience a little bit.
He's kind of like pushing forward, and I do like the idea. So it's a different episode than normal because usually we have a character and we're looking at character arcs, but now we're looking at a world.
I mean, you can still kind of do that. Like, you
we definitely can
invent agriculture in the first episode. But yeah, I don't want to jump on your idea. Go ahead.
I'm trying to give myself a framework here.
Oh yeah.
So like our season 1, our arc for the whole season is beginning of a civilization, and the end goal is we enter space, basically.
I feel like it should not just enter space, but like colonize space, or I guess that maybe that's a bad word to use if it's
if we're trying to be past colonization.
Yeah. Like we're like Star Trek Discovery. It's we're working together.
I guess like I always use the term post scarcity in these situations.
Yeah.
Because like that's what it is.
That's great. Post scarcity. That's the thing.
We're trying to get to a post scarcity situation.
If everyone's got something, there's like no reason to have these wars anymore.
Yes.
Everyone's got what they need.
To really like make this a fun one, it would kind of be we have to get to a point where civilization's beyond capitalism.
Ooh.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, that's Star Trek though.
It is Star Trek. Like honestly, and I'll get flack for this maybe, but a lot of the problems we have in the world, like hunger and homelessness, these are problems where we say, all right, there's not enough food and there's not enough homes.
Right.
But that's not true. Like, there is enough food and there is enough homes. The problem is giving things away for free is the crux of it. Like, you have to earn the food. You have to earn the home is what capitalism tells us. It tells us you have to go out and you have to earn that bread, so to speak. Earn a living. Like, the phrase is built in there.
I think, you know, we don't want to be too controversial on our program here, but I'm kind of the opinion, if we have super awesome robots that basically build themselves and serve humanity, like, we kind of don't need people to earn a living. Like, there's no work to be done.
That is the crux of post-scarcity.
And everyone can have what they want. It's sort of like, it kind of breaks capitalism. It's not just unnecessary. It doesn't work anymore.
It's true. Like, the coolest futures are the ones where, like, all right, we have supercomputers, we have quantum computing, we have self-replicating robots that take care of us as a humanity. And that's a situation where, like, well, then why not just start giving people food and giving them homes? Like, they don't need to earn that anymore. The robots build themselves. Like, I love the concept of post-scarcity because it's a world where there is no suffering, basically. But it's a tough road, and this is already going to be a complicated episode because we have to talk about all kinds of fun things.
I mean, I think these are like fun questions for a TV show.
They are. They definitely are.
Like the conversation, like that could be part of the last few episodes. Like, you know, it's a world we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll never know, you know, but in our fictional world, like it's almost like, how do we get to Star Trek, you know?
Yeah, like the end goal is Star Trek.
Yeah, like, because like the argument always, I feel like always for capitalism, the argument's always like, if people get what they want, if people just get what they want, then no one's going to work and nothing will get done. And and then there's also the argument like if the government has control over everything, they can just abuse that power.
Yeah.
So like these are the kind of things we'd have to address. I mean, Star Trek's kind of a fun thing, and until you really look at what's going on, and like there's a lot of weird sort of like authoritarian stuff in the background, and they sort of gloss over that because I don't think they want you to think about that too much. So I mean, these are really interesting questions to play around with near the end of the series run. There's a lot of like this little thing that we've discussed here is only just 1 or 2 episodes of the series. Like there's a lot of cool stuff to kind of go through. It's like alternate history. You just get to kind of look at the past with like a new eye.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there are a lot of fun things we could do. We could have the civilization start off as kind of an isolated island community.
Yeah.
So like the first so many episodes are like discovering agriculture, discovering like how to govern your people. And then a new arc would be like, oh, we just met new people and they look totally different from us. And suddenly like we have to address racism and all that like later on after we take care of those kind of issues like classism, because society will naturally generate toward providers and consumers. Last episode, obviously the goal is post-scarcity humanity. At least right now that's our goal.
I'm feeling like it's a little bit like almost like the 2001. I feel like we just referenced that a lot, but it's like 2001, the structure 2001, it starts with the like proto-humans, like the Australopithecus Australopithecus.
Yeah.
Australopithecus would be like space apes.
Those would be great space apes though.
But Australopithecus or whatever it is that they're doing, like touches the monolith, invents the first weapon, and then like we jump way into the future because that was humanity. Like that started there. It's like the intelligence happened, and now we're a new thing. And then at the end of 2001, spoilers, we get the next level of humanity, the Star Child there. And I don't know if we want to do something that like physically different, like we're literally evolving in this show, but it could be we start with agriculture. Agriculture creates a civilization. I mean, I feel like that's not such a bad definition of a civilization. It's sort of a bunch of people who decided to stay in one spot. Though the Mongols did travel a lot in their civilization, so I guess it's not completely accurate, but for the sake of simplicity, we have civilizations start. The first civilization starts, and then the end of it is like Earth is a civilization. We've locked it in, and now as we travel among the stars, we represent Earth. We don't represent a single country.
Which is kind of what happens every time you do like a Star Trek or Star Wars. Well, I guess not really Star Wars, but like any sci-fi setting in super space in the future.
Yeah. Star Wars to a degree, because there's Tatooine. I'm from Tatooine. It's a planet.
But like they're humans. Like humanity's always one group, even though on our planet there's multiple countries and multiple cultures. It's always interesting. I find it fun that like this is always assuming that humanity banded together by now.
And maybe the last episode has aliens in it.
That's what I was gonna say. Like,
oh, okay, yeah. This is a fun idea.
It is. It's interesting to talk about and think about. It's hard to talk about and think about because again, it's like personal politics and like what you think is right and wrong.
Yeah, and I mean the staff writers will put their own spin on things.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. I think like a lot of the best morality tales or whatever you want to call them are they're not preachy. They're like, here's a scenario, here's both sides, here's what could happen. And I feel like that's more a show I want to see. Like I don't want to talk down to the audience, say, here, you should have these political beliefs because that's the best. I want to go like, hey, here's what happens in history.
Yeah.
Here's what we've seen, and here's how it could have gone different. Like we already know what happened. Maybe if we did this, things could have been better, or maybe things could have gone worse here. Like World War II could have ended a lot worse than it did.
Oh, definitely.
It also could have gone a lot better.
Like if our made-up civilization, if they were a superpower at the time, like would they have jumped right in because of crimes against humanity, or would they have tried to be like, let's not get embroiled in a world war?
Right. It's an interesting kind of thing, and we can make the conditions for them any way we want. I imagine we'd probably want them as a world power because then they have more influence over the world.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely part of, maybe and because this isn't like literally Earth, I said before, like maybe it's like Africa or Middle East, like it could be a region similar to that. So we could really have them. Maybe it's like an African empire where it's like the whole continent that is sort of Africa in this world, like they could kind of have conquered that in the past. That could be kind of cool. And then they have like they're like a superpower in the world theater.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
There are definitely some pretty interesting things we could do. Like, our civilization could be conquered by another civilization. And
I mean,
rise up later on.
I mean, that's what happened that's what happened to England. Like, they were, the Celts kind of hanging out in the British Isles, and then Rome came over and kind of took them over, and, they all became Romans. And then Rome fell apart, and then England kind of became its own empire, and then kind of took over the world itself. So, we can have our civilization do something like that. If we want to do like a second season, we could even have kind of jump back to other ideas that we didn't get to.
Like, like it might be fun. Like, you do the whole season, it gets to that point where they're in space. Right. Yeah. They don't have to do the aliens as a season 2 hook in this case. Instead, the next season, like, the first scene is like rewinding back to that first moment, and like you get to follow different routes that history could have taken. Yeah, because that could be a lot of fun. It
could be a brand new world. It also could be the same world from a different perspective. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. You could do like you could make. If you want to do like a butterfly effect kind of thing, you can have each season like one thing in the geography of the world has changed, and thus that like changed everything. Like Egypt didn't have the Nile, and so they never became like these like little things change, and then the whole world changes. Like that's another way to go, but I feel like that's the season 2 idea. I think season 1 should be as it's Earth but different. Yeah. But then you could do multiple seasons where the premise of each season is like one thing has changed and nothing's the same. Like you don't have, or maybe you do have like historical figures, but they are no one. Like
important leaders are now just like homeless.
Yeah, like maybe like Queen Elizabeth is like a suffragette or something. Like it's just like they're just common people. Like that could be kind of fun. Yeah. It's like at the end of the episode, like what's your name? It's like, oh, my name is Abraham Lincoln.
I'm Abraham Lincoln.
What a twist!
And I can never tell lies.
And he's like a huge jerk in this universe.
Yeah, it's just an asshole.
Yeah. Stinkin' Lincoln.
We call him Stinky Linky.
Like, we can have them name their cities after cities that already exist. Yeah. Like, that's kind of fun.
The designer knows he has achieved perfection.
As opposed to Poopistan.
Well, I mean, we could do that too. Like, so, we can make up our own names, but it's also sort of like, we could have the first civilization call their capital Paris. They got there first.
Ha! Beat you.
I don't know. Maybe if any of you have any ideas for episodes for this show, let us know. Or a completely different way to do civilization.
There's certainly a lot of different ways to do civilization. Yeah, so if you have ideas, let us know.
It's such a broad idea for a game a broad idea for a show, like coming from a game. So. Yeah, if you have any ideas that we could have done something completely different, maybe it's about immortal people in thousands of years. Who knows?
Which would also be fun, like watching one person try and shape a whole civilization throughout the ages. Like, that's a whole different concept, but a very interesting one.
And as always, if there's anything you want to see adapted, be it video game, TV show, movie, into some other form of media, you let us know in the comments.
Because we love your ideas and we want to think about it.
And we'll see you next time here on Screen to Screen.
Bye.
Bye.